should only worry about protein if you want to add muscle and bulk up. But there are so many more aspects to protein than its ability to turn on muscle building, a process called muscle protein synthesis. Proteins are all an integral part of your cell membranes, your cytoplasm, and your organelles like the mitochondria. They are also components of your tendons and your skin and your hair. They make up enzymes and assist in metabolic reactions. Proteins are essential elements in hemoglobin, the oxygen transport protein found in red blood cells, and plasma proteins, which are involved in transport of various substances in the blood. They're also very important in buffering acidity in your blood and in your cells. They assist in your body's natural immune system response too. And many hormones like insulin and growth hormone are proteins as well. Proteins are large components of muscle, and they produce movement in your muscle tissue because they contract to help you bend your arm or stand up or just to get around. These proteins are called actin and myosin. Proteins can even be an energy source to provide ATP, or the actual energy currency of your body used to produce work for all of your metabolic needs and daily activities. So, as you can tell, proteins are involved in just about every bodily process that we have. In terms of your body composition, eating protein can help boost your metabolism. In fact, there are a number of foods and supplements that are thought to boost your resting metabolic rate. But research from my lab and from other exercise and nutrition scientists suggests that you can do that by including more protein in your diet and by eating lean protein with every meal. Foods like chicken, turkey breast, fish, and lean beef. Plant protein sources like beans, legumes, some grains, and tofu can be incorporated as well. This strategy can be controversial, but much of the current research supports the fact that protein should make up around 20 to 30% of your diet. This is higher than the 10 to 15% that has traditionally been recommended. This recommendation applies to healthy individuals free from kidney disease, because protein could be an added stress to someone with diseased kidneys. And protein is especially important when trying to lose weight. But first, let's step back for a minute and go over some of the basics about protein. Similar to carbohydrates and fats, proteins contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But proteins also have nitrogen, and it's attached to their structure. It is this nitrogen found in protein that distinguishes it from the other macronutrients. And proteins are composed of amino acids that are linked together by peptide bonds. There are 20 different amino acids that exist, and they can all combine to make unique and new cells and different proteins in our bodies. But because so many different types of foods can provide you with protein, how can you tell if a specific protein or protein food is a good quality protein? Well, one way to tell is by knowing the biological value of the protein. The higher the biological value, the higher the quality. I need to explain what I mean by biological value here. There are two types of proteins, essential and non-essential. They are either essential to include in our diets because our bodies don't make them, or non-essential because our bodies make them from other proteins, so we don't need to worry about eating them. There are 11 non-essential and 9 essential amino acids. And as you probably guessed, essential amino acids are the ones we tend to worry about most. When proteins contain all of the essential amino acids, they are called complete proteins, and they have a high biological value. These proteins are typically from animal sources and include meat, poultry, fish, eggs, milk, and cheese. And when food does not have all of these essential amino acids, they are called incomplete proteins, and they have a low biological value. These are lower quality proteins that are missing at least one of the essential amino acids. So a diet made up of incomplete proteins may eventually lead to protein malnutrition. Examples of incomplete proteins are usually found in plants, grains, nuts, and vegetables. Classifying the amino acids like this is probably most important for those of you who do not eat animal products. This is because animal meats contain all of the essential amino acids, but plant products generally do not. This means that one or more of the amino acids will be missing, which could mean that you won't be able to make certain proteins that your body needs. The good news is that most people don't eat only one source of plant food, though. And by combining various types of incomplete proteins, you can make up for any amino acids that were missing in your diet. This is called eating complementary proteins. And the most common example of this is to eat rice and beans together. One exception is soy. Soy is a plant product that does contain all of the essential amino acids, making it a complete protein. Of the 9 essential amino acids, 3 are important to point out because they are called branched-chain amino acids. Now, branched-chain amino acids can provide some fuel during long bouts of exercise or when we go long periods of time between eating. They may also help to improve body composition. The 3 branched-chain amino acids are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. As the name implies, these amino acids have a branched side chain that distinguishes them from the other amino acids. If you work out, it turns out that consuming branched-chain amino acids may be beneficial in preventing muscle damage and helping to repair damaged muscle tissue. One study investigated the effect of eating foods containing branched-chain amino acids 60 minutes before a 90-minute aerobic exercise session at moderate intensity. These researchers wanted to see whether they had any impact on muscle damage after exercise. Well, what they found was that the biological markers of muscle damage and muscle soreness were lower when branched-chain amino acids were eaten before exercise compared to a placebo group that took no amino acids before exercise. This means that you may be less sore and uncomfortable after moderate to strenuous exercise if protein is consumed beforehand. Something like milk, yogurt, or a protein shake could do the trick. With regard to body composition, of the 3, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, it's leucine that gets the most attention. This is because leucine is considered to be the trigger to start muscle protein synthesis. In fact, research suggests that you not only want to eat some protein at each meal, but that you might also want to make sure that you're getting roughly 2 to 3 grams of leucine in the protein foods that you choose to eat. This is pretty easy to do. Most lean meats eaten in a normal palm-sized portion will provide 2.5 to 4.5 grams of leucine. You can also get about half to 1 gram of leucine by drinking 1 cup of cow's milk. Also, eating beans or nuts will provide around 2 to 3 grams of leucine per cup. So, before a workout, you might think about a snack of milk, yogurt, beans, and nuts, or a protein shake. Now, over the past 5 to 10 years, I've seen a huge increase in scientific papers that support using protein or amino acids to prevent the loss of muscle as a result of aging or extreme exercise like marathon running, long-distance triathlon, or even ultra-distance events. The scientific literature has repeatedly shown that a higher protein diet helps with fat loss and improves body composition. But you may be wondering how protein does all of these positive things in our bodies, and how can you use it to improve your body composition? Well, some amino acids, like the branched-chain amino acids and alanine, among others, can be used to make adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, in your energy systems. In this way, it is estimated that protein contributes as much as 10 to 15% of your energy supply during intense, prolonged exercise. Now, one common way to use amino acids for energy is to convert them to glucose in a process called the glucose-alanine cycle. This is one way to produce new glucose from non-carbohydrate sources, which is known as gluconeogenesis. This is how the amino acid alanine contributes to energy production. Research shows that the more oxygen a person consumes, like when breathing heavily from exercise, the greater the amount of leucine she or he uses as a fuel source. So in the process of eating protein, using it to make other proteins, and using protein for energy, proteins are constantly being broken down or metabolized and built back up or synthesized. This process is called protein turnover. Now, this turnover process is never ending, which is why we must eat a good amount of protein in our diets, particularly when we exercise a lot. And one common question then is, how much protein do we need to eat? In order to figure that out, it's important to talk about your nitrogen balance. Remember that nitrogen is part of the protein that distinguishes it from carbohydrates and fat on a chemical level. Now, in the lab, we can measure nitrogen balance, which is defined as the balance between nitrogen intake and nitrogen output. And protein foods can be analyzed for their nitrogen content. And this will take care of the nitrogen in part of the nitrogen balance equation. And doctors can then analyze nitrogen from body output, including urine, feces, sweat, skin, and hair. And when nitrogen intake is higher than nitrogen output, you are in a positive nitrogen balance. So in this scenario, you will be likely to be anabolic. And if in muscle growth mode, you are trying to maintain or build muscle mass or lose fat, you want to be in a positive nitrogen balance. When nitrogen intake is less than nitrogen output, you are in a negative nitrogen balance. You would likely be sacrificing muscle to support your protein needs in this case. And this occurs during very long and intense workouts, if you don't eat for very long periods of time, or during the normal process of aging, if you don't pay attention to how much protein you eat. You can see that positive and negative nitrogen balance states are drastically different and are both very important to your overall body composition. And factors that may influence nitrogen balance include protein quality, like complete or incomplete, and amino acid content. And